Being such a punctual group, it is now the stroke of 4 o'clock. I'm going to welcome you to the March edition of Sit, Talk, and Learn. I'm playing host today only because my wife Tucker had her hip replaced on Wednesday. Knee replaced, sorry Tucker. And anyways, it doesn't matter, it hurts a lot sometimes, but she's doing really well. She had some friends over, she's smiling, so she's on the mend, and she's watching, I would suppose.
Hi Tucker! Hi Tucker! Hi Tucker!
Just like in church, everybody wave.
How's your hip?
Where are you, Nate? Okay, so we have 8 speakers today, and who knows what we're going to get. I never know what the topics are. I only know who the people are. If this is your first time here, the rule is very simple. You get 3 minutes to tell a story about anything. Can be a person, a place, a thing, a joke, a love of your life, whatever. And we've heard them all, believe me. And it's incredible what you learn in 3 minutes. And so we're just going to let people go and do their thing. Our official timer is Lucy Sachs here. Lucy, maybe loosey-goosey on a couple of seconds here and there, but she has her paddles that shows the speaker if they have 1 minute left, and then another time is up the paddle. And so she is the boss. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Patrick Zweidler McKay, and he's going to be our first speaker today. Oh, and just to say, we have a nifty new speaker. So it's reasonably to adjust. I'll help you, but it moves everywhere. Okay, thanks.
Hello, everyone. So I'll start right away.
Okay.
So Elida and I were both raised in Lutheran churches. And to be honest, once we went through college, we sort of lost touch with church. And yep, we lost touch with church. We would go routinely, appropriately at holidays and so forth, but it didn't really connect with us. We didn't really, have that deep connection. Our mothers did, and so we would go to church with them, but really not that fruitful. So a couple of years ago, we decided we would try to find a community in a church environment, but we thought maybe UU was the right flavor of the church. So we went to the Sudbury UU, and there were lovely people, but they weren't really doing much after COVID. And then we went to the Concord UU, much bigger church, livelier, but also didn't really have the right feel. We really didn't connect. And then we sort of stopped for a while, and this is going to go over 3 minutes. So then we saw in an email that they were making lunches for the homeless up at the parish house. And we said, let's go help make lunches for the homeless. And we did, we came. It was Palm Sunday, we went up to the Brown Church, and nobody was there. They were all down here. So we dropped off the peanut butter jars from Costco, and we wandered down here, and of course we entered the church, and very nicely were brought into the sanctuary, and then one very nice lady was like, oh, would you like to sit here? She opened the door, and We wandered in, and then she came in after us and closed the door. So very nice, they had the introduction, and then all the kids were going back up to the Brown Church, and we were gonna make lunches, and we didn't wanna ask, can we get out again? So we decided to stay, and we listened to the lovely service, and Sarah Kay was giving one of her famous sermons, where she explains the context behind Jesus riding into Jerusalem. And I have 1 minute left. And so we just sat there and said, wait, that story that we have heard hundreds of times over now actually makes sense. It actually has some relevance. It's like we actually read about the story in a novel as opposed to just the snippets that you get from the Bible. And we were so impressed. And then we came to the fellowship hour, and we spoke with many people, and they were, oh, do you want to do this? We got this, and we're doing this other thing. And I'm like, wow, this church is really active. They're doing a ton of things. So later in the week, or not, a couple of weeks later, they had a dinners for seven. That same week, we had dinner. It couldn't have been because that's Easter week. But there was a dinners for seven, and we went to dinner at Lucy's house.
Yeah.
And had these wonderful conversations and all this great energy. And then I saw on the pamphlet said the annual meeting, you should come and talk about the future of this church. And I was like, oh, I'll go, sure. So I attended that, and again, these wonderful ideas. Is that 1 minute left or done?
Done.
Excellent. So basically, I went to that, and I just came home chattering about exactly all the great things about this church. And then the next Sunday, we had name tags. Made name tags. And it was done, and we were in, and you probably know the rest. We're super excited to be in this community and have enjoyed it so much. So thank all of you.
I take full responsibility for getting you in the church from my dinners at 7. Full responsibility.
Rachel for locking us in the pew.
It takes a village, right?
I wasn't gonna out her.
Patrick and Elena are incredible. They're involved in everything now. They're super. So our next speaker is Betsy Dakin. And the first time she spoke, I'll never forget it because she talked on a topic I had never, ever, ever heard about. And it was really neat, and I ran home and I Googled it. And so maybe we'll learn more about it today. I don't know. She's new. Yeah.
Oh, and actually, if you do an introduction,
It doesn't count.
just tell me,
I do need an introduction, and then I'll
Okay,
tell
just tell me,
you
yeah.
when the 3 minutes starts.
Yeah.
Doesn't start yet. Well, that last time, as RL was telling about, was about letterboxing.
Oh, right.
And
Yeah, okay, you're good. Do a little closer. Okay.
oh, okay, can you,
Yeah, okay.
this is a major operation here, isn't it?
Just hang on to it, We're gonna make it work for you. There, my friends.
How is this? Is this okay? Good, okay. Well, I, as an introduction to me, I'm Betsy Dakin, and letterboxing I talked about last time. And basically, for those of you that weren't here then, it's a search for a weatherproof box hidden usually in the woods near a trail. And you go online and get clues, and you follow the clues, different color trails or intersections or trees or rocks or whatever, until you find it. And inside it, there's a logbook and a rubber stamp that someone has hand carved an image on. I could never do that, but most people do it, and they're very artistic. And I also have a logbook and my own rubber stamp, and I did not carve it. What I did, what I did was draw a rough sketch, send it to a company that makes rubber stamps, those kind that go And they made a beautiful one, and that's what I use to stamp their logbook when I find it, take their stamp and stamp my logbook when I find it. And you just always want to find one more, just one more. And one more, and so on. Anyway, now you know what a letterbox is.
Are you starting?
Now I will start. In 2011, my husband and I went out to Uxbridge. We parked in a field, the only car there. Took the trail, found the 2 boxes, and started returning the way we came. Missed the turn back to the field and kept going until we realized, oops, we're lost. The field called 911, and the dispatcher told us we had hiked to Northbridge, all the way to one other town. He sent the local police of both towns and their departments and the Boy Scouts and the state police, who sent search dogs and a helicopter. Yeah. Some boys found us, and their mom called the police. Their helicopter guided us through brush to a waiting cruiser. We all piled in like the clowns in a circus car and were driven back to the field, where now there were all kinds of emergency vehicles waiting for us. Yes, including the ambulance. The next day, I checked the local paper and saw the headline, "Elderly couple rescued." I was not elderly. Next adventure, one more. After being widowed, I had to go letterboxing by myself. Went to the landlocked forest looking for the tri-town marker where the borders of Lexington, Bedford, and Burlington all meet. Went all over the place there with no luck finding the letterbox or even the marker. Sorry. Again, called 911. The gruff dispatcher said, "Just keep walking until you see a house. Then go through the yard to the street. Find a mailbox with an address on it. Then call 911. Did that. A police car with hard plastic seats, bars on the windows, and a rude policeman picked me up and drove me back to my car. That was sure different than the last time, wasn't it? If you want to try letterboxing, and I hope you will actually, go to atlasquest.com. There you can search to see where they are planted and by whom. We all have trail names. Most are very creative, like Frizzlegriff and Purple Gem. Mine is Betsy at the Summit, the name of our condo. You might want to start with finding one of the 25 that I've planted here in Lincoln.
Oh.
Right?
Yeah. If you do find one, be sure to put it back exactly where it belongs, covered with sticks and leaves and so
Great.
forth. So only a
Thank you.
letterboxer would find it.
Perfect. Thank you, Betsy.
Okay. Thank you.
full of geocaching. And I don't think I'm gonna forget that story either. So next on our agenda is Barbara O'Neill. And like many people, she said, but 3 minutes, I can't do it in 3 minutes. And the answer is, do your damnedest, 3 minutes. And so she's gonna try her darndest.
Thanks, Earl.
Tell me when you start.
Okay, I'm gonna do a little introduction first. Hello, everyone. Great to see you. I've been asked to tell this story by quite a few people, and a lot of pressure, and one of the people that pressured me is Tucker. And so I thought, I've gotta do this for her. She's just had her knee replaced, least I can do is tell my story. So, hi Tucker, and I'm happy to do it. It's a big one though, and so I had to really work to keep it, you'll see why, to kind of reduce it into have a through line. So just sort of my beginning, thank you. I'm the youngest of 4 children, and the other 3 are quite a bit older than I am. And when I was a teenager,
Are you starting? Sorry.
no, this is preamble. One was in the Peace Corps in Thailand, one was married living in California, and the other one, my brother Jack, I'm going to talk about. But we wrote letters. My point really is that my family are a family of letter writing, and from the age of about 12, I was writing letters and getting letters back. So it's really integrated into our family and what's natural. And I really do think that because of the distance and the long letters, that's what's made me a writer, because I've been practicing writing since I was quite young. And I now teach writing, as you may know, and love it. So I'm ready to begin.
Okay.
Between 1964 and 1973, any American able-bodied boy could be drafted into the U.S. Army. It was the law. My brother John graduated from Andover in 1966, and he wanted to take a year off. He wanted time off before college. It became clear quite quickly that without a plan, he would be drafted. And as he says, with all the wisdom of an 18-year-old boy, he joined the Marines. Without telling our family, he met with the Marine Corps, who offered him a special 2-year tour of duty instead of the Army, which would be 3 years. And they said, with your education, you will be stateside. You will not see any action. You'll be doing supply in Barstow, California. So my parents were furious and terrified. He came home and said, I joined the Marines. And at that point, Vietnam was not really on top of the news. But a war was escalating, they knew this, and they were against it. And for him serving in the military was not something that they approved of. And he said, I'm 18, I can do what I want, they want me. John had a great year in Barstow, California. For 1 year, he did supply, worked on computers. California was very hip then, very cool. The Beach Boys, surfing, he had a blast. Went to great concerts. In 1968, he came home for R&R, as was his regular thing to do. And when he got back to Barstow, all the desks were filled with women Marines. Every man was sent, he insists that we say, these are boys. Every boy was sent to Vietnam, including John. I was 15. He was my adored older brother. And every day above the fold in the New York Times, as many of you remember, the number of the troops killed was written. John would write letters home on this blue, the blue thin stationery, smudged with dirt, kind of telling us about his experiences. Nothing graphic, nothing horrific that he did witness, but just sort of about where he was and what it was like and his buddies. I wrote letters every week, cheery letters about home, trying to make him, distract him. I was consumed with this situation that he was there, complaining about my parents, wish you were here. When his letters came, my parents and I pored over them. We had a map hung up in the front hall. We'd go look at the map of Vietnam. Where is he now? Up at the DMZ. So while he was there, he applied to college because he knew he wanted to make a plan for when he got home. And he applied, we're from the Boston area, so he applied to Boston and into BU and to Harvard from Vietnam. John witnessed grueling sights, things he did not put in his letters that he wrote home to us. A few weeks before he was discharged to leave Vietnam, his battalion, the Charlie Company, was defending a position against the North Vietnamese forces. They were ambushed. Charlie Company was ambushed. My brother was among them. 24 US Marines were killed. 37 were wounded on landing zone Loon. These were John's buddies, more like brothers. He sustained minor injuries with others, and with the others they hauled body bags containing their buddies to the helicopters that kept flying in and flying out the wounded and the dead. It was a miracle that he survived. John returned home to a country that was against the war and against anyone who served in the war. He was the first Vietnam vet to attend Harvard University. And on graduating, he married my sister-in-law, Grazi, and they had 3 wonderful daughters. But he was never able to settle. And after 15 years, he left the marriage. He couldn't keep a job, and he sank pretty low. By then, the Marine Corps acknowledged that there was something called PTSD was real, post-traumatic syndrome, which had been denied for a long time. He got a lot of help from the VA, which helped him tremendously. He never spoke of his experience in Vietnam, and we all really didn't know how to ask about it. But he just kept on going. His wife didn't know much about it, his kids. And 40 years later, he started writing. And he had kept writing all those letters home, and he got the letters out, and he wrote like a maniac, and he just wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote. And he found, so to our pleasure, he found an agent, he found an editor, and his book was published. His experience was published. It's called Loon, A Marine Story by Jack McLean. The book changed his life. This is kind of my point, how writing can change your life too. It changed his life. Veterans got in touch with him. Parents of people who lost sons got in touch with him. He visited families. He became a speaker and has traveled and talked a lot about the experience in Vietnam. He speaks a lot about its context in American history because of now its history. He's always loved history, and he's a compelling speaker. It's an anti-war book without saying it, because it's written through the eyes of an 18-year-old boy, telling the story of a turbulent time in our country. A week doesn't go by, he said, without someone contacting him about his experience 58 years ago, all because of a book and the impassioned writer of the book. And I've been deeply influenced by his experience of telling his story, which has shown the power of writing and to heal and to connect. Thank you. Any questions?
What's the book again? We need it.
Yeah. It's at the Lincoln Library.
Oh.
It's Loon, A Marine Story by Jack McLean. It's a memoir. So he writes about his family, about his growing up. I might be mentioned in it, and about his experience in Vietnam. And so a lot of people said to him, it was very successful. It's very successful. In 2009, he wrote it. It was published. What happened when you got home? He mentions it a little bit in the book, but he's written a sequel called Found about his experience getting home. So, thank you.
Quite a tale indeed. Thank you, Barbara. Next up, we're going to have Adam Bailey. Adam actually contacted me earlier this week and said, I might run a little long. And I said, no. I said, 3 minutes is it. I'm giving a presentation. I'm whittling it down. You too. So he may run over, I don't know. But anyways, Adam Bailey is next.
That's a tough act to follow.
Yeah. Tell me when you're.
I'll
done
let
with
you
the
know.
intro.
I do want to introduce.
Okay.
As RL said, I am embarrassed to say how much time I spent whittling this down. So it's close to 3 minutes, actually. The only thing I want to say by way of introduction is I want to describe something that happened to me many years ago, and higher up.
Yeah, you got it.
I want to describe something that happened to me that I would call a spiritual experience. And you say, spiritual experience, that's something rare, like only Buddhist monks have that, or clerics or something. And I would say, well, I don't think it's as rare as you might think. So my hope would be, as I tell the story and as you're listening, you can think about experiences you've had that are similar. So have a thought. All right. Many years ago, something truly extraordinary happened to me. It took place in February 2011, when I signed up to take horseback riding lessons at a new stable. I've been riding ever since I was a child, but I'd had to take a long break because of illness. So now at long last I was feeling better, and I wanted to start riding again. The stable where I went had an indoor arena where people ride in the winter. When I led the horse into the arena at the beginning of my lesson, she was immediately nervous. I don't like this one bit, she seemed to be saying, and with good reason. The roof of the arena was creaking. At one point, the instructor said, "I've never heard noises like that before." For my part, I didn't really understand what was happening. The only thing I was thinking was, I'm definitely not getting on the horse. I was walking her around, just trying to keep her calm. Finally, after a few minutes, the instructor said, "You know what, let's go back in the other building." So we left the arena and closed the sliding doors behind us. Now we were in the aisle of the stable where the horses live. I was holding the horse with my back to those sliding doors. Then, less than 60 seconds later, there was a whooshing sound in the arena, followed by an incredibly loud thud, and then total silence. All that noise scared the horse all over again. She wanted to take off, and I was holding on to her for dear life since there was another horse directly in front of us. I still had absolutely no idea what was going on. But then, after the horse had calmed down, I looked back over my shoulder at those sliding doors. I'll never forget what I saw. Through the crack, I could see sunlight and bright white snow. And that was when it hit me. The entire roof of that indoor arena had collapsed.
Oh my.
Where there had been a building, there was nothing now but sunlight, blue sky, and snow. Oh my goodness, I had just missed being involved in a catastrophe by less than 60 seconds. The more I thought about it, the more I got chills up my spine. I still get chills telling you about it. When I drove home afterwards, I was crying and praying the whole way. Over and over, I kept saying prayers of gratitude to the universe. "I'm so glad I'm still here," I kept repeating. I felt as though something powerful and mysterious had happened. I felt blessed. You might say this was just a coincidence, but I think there was more to it than that. I'm almost done. There's a saying that coincidences are God's way of staying anonymous. And there was another crazy coincidence. Right at the same time, just before the roof collapsed, I'd done a tarot card reading in which I'd drawn the Tower card. I didn't think much of that, but then a few days later I was reading the description of that card and it said, quote, "A man-made structure will be swept away so that something new can emerge in your life." I'm not lying. And amazingly enough, that did mark the beginning of a positive new phase in my life. Country Mill Stable in Bolton.
How do you feel about the fact that your horse anticipated this and you didn't?
Not surprising. Horses are very, very aware and intuitive, very, very aware of the environment. The horse knew what was on.
Right.
By the way, it was 2011. You may remember there was a ton of snow and none of it melted. In fact, the roof of Donovan's collapsed that same year. So, and there were a number of stables that had roof collapses. I don't know how those went. All I know is I dodged a bullet.
How long did it take for the horse to recover? You know,
Once it got quiet,
she was okay.
part of the thing that I didn't get into because I didn't have the time, but this was the first time I had ridden this horse, and it was the first time at the stable, and so I didn't know if the horse was like hot, but it turned out this was a very, very calm horse in general. So she was, you know, it was unusual that she would get that upset, and clearly she had good reason.
And the horse really saved you and saved herself by winnowing, and the instructor said, let's
Well, the instructor,
pick that up.
I feel like it was a combination of the instructor's intuition and something watching over me.
Yeah. I think the horse too, though, was.
And the horse.
Other than me giving the.
I was the last one to get the memo. And it was only afterwards that I looked back, I was like, oh my God. You know, whenever I tell the story, people are like, oh, it's obvious this was gonna happen. But I'm telling you, when I was in it, I had no idea.
I believe it.
Yeah, well, it was
Fabulous.
That was really well done, Adam. Thank you. And, yeah, what a story. And I think it sort of goes into this month's theme that we have about grace, perhaps? Maybe? Anyways, so thank you so much. Karen Carlson is our next speaker. Here she comes right now.
I think it has to be a little lower.
Take it right there. I'll pick it up and bring it down.
Alright, are we good?
We're good.
Hello, can you hear me in the back? It's really good to be here with you today, and I want to also commend Tucker for forcing me to speak. So, I'm Karen Carlson. I have no preamble.
Oh.
So, the title of my story is How I Became a Godmother. My story begins in Orvieto, Italy, in a country inn just outside the city. That's where my husband, Richard, holds a week-long gathering for alumni of his global mental health course. When I'm there as the spouse, my only job is to do a little translating and to serve as the informal medic for the group. But I have a lot of free time. So it was during this free time that I met Taki, husband of a Lebanese psychologist who came to the meeting often. Taki was a cultured, diminutive Lebanese gentleman in his 80s. He was fabulously wealthy. He had houses in London, Monaco, Spain, Washington, and Beirut. But whenever he came to the inn, he said he felt more at peace there than in any luxury hotel. We would pass some time together, leafing through books of photographs or sitting outside in the sun. One year, his wife, Maya, came to me and said, Taki must have his B12 injection today. And I hesitated a little bit because I am a doctor, but I had given many injections, but I really wasn't accustomed to giving injections in the rear end, as Taki was expecting. So I watched a YouTube video. And later that day, Taki stretched out on the sofa. I gave the injection. He cried out softly. And later he told me that it was one of the best injections he'd ever had. And he felt much, much better. So I thought that was it for my medical duties. But then Richard came to me with an unusual request. It seems that Taki wanted to be baptized, to take on the Christian faith of his wife. He had some time ago made the decision to renounce Islam, which he had experienced as a violent and destructive faith, even though that renunciation meant that he could be killed if he returned to Beirut. Father Wisnik, who's now Bishop Wisnik in Haiti, a Haitian priest, who was also attending the meeting, would perform the baptism. Richard would become Taki's godfather, and I would become his godmother. So a few days later, we assembled in the innkeeper's living room, the priest, Taki and his wife, the innkeeper and his wife, and Richard and me. There were also the innkeeper's 2 dogs, who were there irreverently, one of them, rolling on his back, asking for belly rubs during the entire ceremony. So it was an informal setting, but when Father Wisnik intoned the ritual words of baptism, and Taki bowed his right head to be blessed with the holy water, it was truly a moment of grace, of healing for all of us. And I became Taki's godmother. I don't imagine there are any questions, and frankly, I hope there aren't.
I just overheard Lucy say pretty amazing talks today.
Yeah.
And she's absolutely right. So now we have a returning speaker. He was so dynamic and so good last month that he's been invited back. I think we have Travis Rowland next on the docket here. I think we'll get out of it his way.
Way up.
You could do this by height.
There you go, Travis.
Thank you. How's this? Good? Good. I can tell by the looks on your faces that you guys are really missing some football today. It's Sunday, there's no more games. I'm here to help you. Who remembers the Gong Show?
Yes.
Okay, yes, sir.
Yep.
Well, I was actually on the Gong Show, but a different version of it. So I played Division III football in Pittsburgh, so very small school. Nothing too impressive. And every year you play the conference games, and you play a lot of out-of-conference games against schools that you never heard of before. One year we played a team or a college called Gallaudet University. Never heard of it. It's in DC. It's like an 8-hour bus ride. And Gallaudet, if you don't know about it, is a deaf and hard of hearing school.
Oh, right, yeah.
Right. How do these guys play football and do things? Apparently, they use a gong on the sidelines. And if the cadence is on 2 or 3, like hut 1, hut 2, they bang the gong twice. And the people that have their fingers on the floor can feel the vibrations and start to play. So this is Division III, no frills, no planes. This is actually also a tribute speech as well to my favorite band. But we didn't take the plane, we took the cars. And it was an 8-hour drive, and to help us get through the trip, we had a lot of Candio, and we were moving in stereo. But eventually we got there and started the game, and you might think that it was an easy game, but these guys had some athletes, and they could play, and they could hit. I caught a pass one time and started running, and the most chiseled athlete I've ever seen came at me. This is the 90s, where you're still allowed to hit in the crown of your helmet. He hit me so hard I brain my damage. And the game was tough, we were falling behind, and we needed some magic. So I went to my teammates and said, let's go. And we wound up actually winning the game. And we weren't going to drive 8 hours to lose a game. So it was fun, but it was eye-opening to see people with that disability just as persevere, play through it. It's a great school, and that was my time. My first time in DC, not the last, but yeah, it was fun. If you don't get why I did air quotes, then we can't be friends, by the way. Any questions? This was a shirt for that game, too.
What was your favorite band?
I forget, something about a bus or they ride cars or something, I don't know. Good? Good?
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, you're great. So I was thinking that you might be crazy, Travis, but yeah, you might be crazy. Anyway, so now we're gonna have a little change of pace here. We're gonna go a little high tech. Both Elaine Hawks and I are gonna sort of try to use a computer to do some of this stuff, staying within a 3-minute limit. And so we're gonna just make sure that everything comes on as it should, and then I'll turn it over to Elaine.
So just to keep this easy, I've got a laptop that I'll be showing, and then my notes are on here, so I'll go back and forth. And you can see me get more and more
To
anxious.
move the mic down, too. Way down.
That's the least of my problem.
Good thing you're a techie.
Yeah, okay, now wait, this is all set up, it's not gonna happen. Also, I can't see.
That was perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, left right arrow for that.
Okay, I'm good.
You're good there. Great.
Okay, I don't have a preamble.
Okay.
Actually, I can make a short preamble, which is that I wrote about the Monks Walk for Peace.
Sorry?
In the Lenten booklet this year, so if you happen to see that, this is more about that. Now I'm ready. I had been following the Monks for Peace on Facebook and decided that I needed to go see them in person. It felt like a pilgrimage. I thought, if only I can get a dog sitter to come to the house, if only I can get my husband to come with me and drive, if only I can empty my schedule, and if we can stay with Greg's brother, if I can just see a glimpse of them as they walk by, I would be so happy. That's all I want. So we went. Our train was canceled at the last minute, so I felt grateful we had a car, and the drive was seamless. Traffic was unusually light, even on the George Washington Bridge. We got to Columbia, Maryland in under 8 hours. Tickets to see the monks at American University were free, but sold out fast. My niece heard about it as an alumna, so we managed to get some tickets. The roads nearby were closed, but we got our car into the garage and ourselves into the stadium. The crowd went silent as the monks walked in. We watched them chant together before sitting down. The lead monk, Venerable Bhikkhu Panyakara, had the idea to walk for peace 2,300 miles from Texas to Washington, D.C. to raise, quote, awareness of peace, loving kindness, and compassion across America and the world, unquote. When he spoke, he told us to put our lovers down, which confused everyone until he said, your cell phones, meaning our cell phones, and instead to write down every day, today will be my peaceful day. And this is his dog, Aloka, who now has 1 million followers on Facebook. When the monks left the stadium, we could see their path from the flower petals that had been spread before them. I wasn't sure if we'd get to see them walk by, but it was easier than I expected. Roads were being closed, so we knew where they would walk, and police on bicycles appeared. It was a nice warmish day, so we decided to wait. I had seen videos of large crowds, but we were standing where we had a good view, and several monks smiled or waved at me when I bowed to them. It was incredibly moving to me. Oops. Before going in, I think I missed one. We followed the crowds on the sidewalk, all heading toward the National Cathedral, where the monks were scheduled to meet with Bishop Buddy and other faith leaders. Before going in, Venerable Bhikkhu Panyakara spoke to the crowd and led thousands of us in a mindfulness meditation. We all closed our eyes and focused on our breath, hands over our hearts. But wait, it's just getting good, Lucy.
Oh, whatever.
A conservative Christian with a bullhorn tried to disrupt the meditation, but the monk kept us focused by saying, just sounds, just sounds. The monks were harassed by Christian and Southern Baptist groups in the South, and their reactions were so instructive, wishing them to be well, happy, and at peace. Loving kindness meditation, he taught us, starts like this, and you can say it with me if you want. May I be freed from resentment and conflict. May I be freed from physical suffering. May I be freed from mental suffering. May I be freed from danger. May my body and mind be at peace. Thank you. Any questions?
Where did they sleep at night?
They started off by sleeping in tents in the south, and then as they gathered steam and also got colder as they were coming up north, and they slept in, I mean, they were offered hotel rooms, but they would all sleep together in like one big room in the hotel, and they were slept at churches. And people donated a lot of things, like they were walking barefoot to start, and people donated shoes and then snow boots for them, because it was when it was really cold and icy in Virginia.
Wow.
Yeah.
And were the food stops and the drink stops when they all ate together?
They had, they stopped for lunch every day. It was their one meal of the day. And sometimes they allowed people to be there with them. Sometimes they didn't. There were so many followers after a while that they had to have more boundaries around them, just so that, I mean, people were actually, I guess, wanting to like take selfies with them and shake their hand, you know, sort of do things that distracted them, which is why they had a lot of volunteers and then the police on bicycles kind of escorting them up.
I followed them on Facebook, but there was no indication of the jeering or negative stuff they got. I saw nothing of that.
Yeah.
So that was interesting to hear. It's not too bad, but interesting to hear that. And they just kept.
They just kept on.
Yeah.
I know, and it was actually sort of interesting. I was reading about. At first, I only saw it on Facebook, and I didn't see anything in the newspaper about it. And towards the end, there started to be more broadcasts, but someone had kind of searched for what newspapers and magazines were actually writing something, and it was all kind of liberal press that they were getting. The more conservative press wasn't writing anything about it. So I don't know,
But they were out there protesting. They
Yeah.
were out there.
yeah.
How much time passed between when you decided to go on this journey and when you went? Was it weeks?
A few days, just a few, because they were slowly coming up, and I'm thinking, well, why can't I go? And then, wait, I can. Yeah.
Good.
That's you.
So finally, for the last speaker of the afternoon, we have R.L. Smith. Thank you. Thank you very much. And, okay, so background here. Tucker said, why don't you tell this particular story? I said, that's a great idea. And maybe I'll make it multimedia. So I did it. And it would have run maybe 45 minutes or so. And so I started cutting it down, and I realized just to get to the background of the story that I'm going to tell, I'm going to just pass by about 6 or 7 stories really fast, and because I can revisit them sometime. But there's a lot of stuff here. I'm just going to whiz right through it, and we'll see how I do. But I'm going to try real hard to stay close to the 3 minutes here. So let's see what we can do here.
Are you ready to start?
Wait a minute,
I am.
I'll get.
Well,
easy now. No, knock it. Come to think of it, you can't get there from here.
Yes. What's that? Yeah, technology, there you go. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, that's from a record called Bert and I that came out in 1958. Two guys who knew each other at Yale put it together, Bob Ryan, Marshall Dodge. And I actually knew Bob Ryan quite well because he was both the chaplain at Choate in Wallingford, Connecticut, and he was my crew coach. So Bob and I became pretty close. Bob was the most charismatic guy you'll ever see, and he had the coolest airplane in the world that could take off on short aircraft, and it was a seaplane. One summer, Bob took a part-time job, talked to the Anglican Diocese of Quebec, and got a job as a supply minister, plying the coast there that you see circled in northern Quebec. Labrador is right above that. Bob loved it. He fell in love with the people, he fell in love with the flying, he loved it all. And so he sort of thought, what can I do here? Well, for those of you who might not know, in 1903 a guy named Sir Walford Grenfell started the Grenfell Mission to put health services up on the North Shore in Newfoundland. Hospitals, nursing stations, all the rest. And Bob thought, you know, maybe I could do the same thing with sort of social services and human services, leave the medical there, but maybe if I aligned myself with them, I could follow that model. So he did. And ta-da, he started the Quebec Labrador Mission Foundation, and the idea was to take kids, high school kids, put them in these communities, have them play with the children, have them talk to the children about what their dreams might be for the future, and we had scholarship money available, so if they wanted to be a nurse or a doctor or whatever, and so it was pretty neat. And so Bob was to bring the education and the opportunities for what they wanted to do to these small towns. I was in Kagasca, Quebec one year. My first time was in 1965, a little tiny town called Kagasca. Most memorable summer of my life. I was there with one other person, and I was befriended by a young man who lived in town. His name was Lloyd Court, and Lloyd Court just became a dear friend of mine. He was just a year younger than we were, so we were all sort of kids together. And Lloyd became a dear friend, but yeah, that's a picture of me when I was about that age. So anyways, there was a boat called the Briand that went aground in Kagasca. And I was in the plane with Bob Ryan flying over Kagasca when this happened. I don't know why that's not happening, but there you go, there's the Briand. And so this had just happened a day or so before. When I found that out just recently, I Googled the Briand, found out that it's a big deal for Kagasca to have this wreck of the Briand there. But I didn't know if anybody really knew that I had pictures of the day that she went up on the rocks. So I wrote about a letter, email to a guy who made websites for these little towns up there and said, somebody may or may not be interested in these. And by the way, I know the coast a little bit, spent some time in Kagasca, had an old friend named Lloyd Court who was a good guy. And so that was sort of neat until I got a letter from Lloyd. And I never knew what happened to Lloyd. It said, hey man, I became a bush pilot, and then I became flying for Cartier Mines, and he was flying big planes, and his dreams got realized. He always wanted to be a pilot, and by God, I would think that maybe something that we did that summer might have made a difference to him. So that's the story. And Barbara O'Neill here has served her own time up on the Labrador coast in Red Bay, right? Yeah. And so, anyways, there you go. Thank you very much. Any questions? Good.
I just can't believe you know Bert and I.
Yeah, so Bob died recently. Marshall Dodge died in the 70s, he was riding his bicycle around Haleakala Crater in Hawaii, and a guy hit him, and hit and run, and killed him. And that was rather, Bob died about 5 years ago of old age. But a lot of people in our circles have done the QLF thing before, and it's mainly because Bob got all his, 99.9% of the kids who do it were preppies. And so he'd go around, we would just get around. And, you know, the most remarkable thing was that in '65, these towns had no running water, they had no telephones, just a crank on an inter-town phone. You'd use a chamber pot, you'd use kerosene lamps at night to see what you're doing, and you'd go from house to house to house and talk with everybody at night. It was like going back to the 1800s, it was really neat. And it was hard to come back to America and to the 20th century, and now the 20th century has arrived there. There's a road that goes up the coast, microwave communications brought on TVs, people spent their days watching soap operas, drugs came out on the road, cell phones, kids left to get better jobs anywhere else they could. So, and then they put a kibosh on the fishing, the cod fishing industry because it was getting overfished by the draggers, and the coastal fishermen couldn't fish either, so that sort of fell apart. So it's been very, very sad to see that whole area have their culture pretty well gutted, just in a very short period of time, from '65 to '80, maybe all that happened. So anyways, next month, I think, well, we're gonna do this one more time. Tucker's probably laying in her bed going, no, we're not. But if we do, we'll see you then at 4 o'clock on a Sunday. Thank you all for coming. Remarkable stories as always. Thank you to each and every presenter today.